Maryville, who have beaten SLU time and time again, both in those North Conference Finals, and here they're going to try to do the same in the CLOL Grand Finals. We are on to the Rift for game number 1. As we remember, Maryville going to be on blue side, and even on that blue side, knowing that St. Louis could potentially have that R5, we're seeing a ton of top lane bans right off the bat.
And it's a gambit here from Maryville, because you know what you're leaving up when you ban out Srtty champions? Things like that Talia that we mentioned. Xin Chao for Winnie, another big pick that I could look to see him go for. It is St. Louis on the red side, so they have the luxury of that R5 counter pick as well for Srtty. So even though you have the option to potentially remove 6 champions from him, Srtty's got a deep pool. He might just be able to counter Niles anyway. The Varus ban, though, a really big one, and we come to the first pick. Azir still open for Spirax.
Those mid laners have been really powerful for both of those players. However, we're
going back to it.
That's interesting. That's a Senna. We didn't really talk about this a ton, but Maryville and St. Louis have both prioritized the Senna pretty heavily earlier on in the season, but have dropped it off a little bit. Now, we're seeing a B1 out of MU.
And we expected this to be way more of an Airren pick. We talked about Maryville falling away from scaling ADs. Senna was the big culprit, and Jerry looked a little bit out of sorts, and him and Zyko were not really linked up when they played the Senna Nautilus lane against UST a couple weeks ago. So now back on the pick, and this opens up Airren to go for the more aggressive pick. Shoe perhaps on the other foot. Remember, at the top of the show, we said it was Jerry and Zyko that would be the ones looking to play aggressive. It's not going to be the case.
And for Airren and SkyTec now, they have the opportunity to really break this lane open down bottom. And
nice.
With that Talia pick,
love it.
You're adding that semi-global, you're giving DARKWINGS push and allowing him to get to that bottom lane faster.
And I'm going to be honest with you, Grapes, I feel like St. Louis is getting everything that they want right now. I mean, sure, Spirax going to be completely comfortable in this RE matchup. He's going to be a big playmaker in his own right, but you're just putting St. Louis in a position where they can play aggressively. You have DARKWINGS in his most comfortable champion. He's in a position to match Spirax, which was the job laid out for him in the series. And now I just want to see what Winnie goes to. I mentioned the Xin Zhao being available, things like the Wukong, the Vi. There's been virtually no jungle attention in this pick ban, and we know that Winnie can pick out any kind of playmaker.
Still awaiting those picks from the top laners and the junglers, unless we see some flexibility with that Talia, which we are not expecting to see. We think Srtty's going to get the R5, right?
So, absolutely.
So Winnie potentially now can ban away a couple of those junglers that he knows that Yuuji can play. Things like that Lee Sin, where he can really have an impact early game, and try to take a stranglehold of this game from minute 1, like St. Louis really always likes to do.
Yeah, and again, I think you have to ban Xin Vi here. I just feel like you give up way too much to SLU if they're able to get it. So the Vi ban from Maryville is very good, and SLU is basically going to have their pick of the litter. They even end up banning out the Jax. I'm trying to figure out if this signals like a TF pick or anything like that from Srtty. That's one we've seen banned away from him on 5, and they're trying to remove some of the safe blinds from Niles.
Yeah, the Jax would be good into that TF. I mean, you get the counter strike. You can dodge away from the gold cards. It's a very simple counter, and they can match him in the side lanes as well.
Force Niles to play Cassante. Honestly, like that is a good draft strategy for SLU, because then Srtty can pick any of his split pushers, and he won't really be answerable later on.
So second phase of fans have concluded the Olaf taken away. That allows for things like the Twisted Fate to be collected. We thought we could see a jungler like the Wukong or the Xin Zhao here on R4, but maybe Srtty feels confident enough to blind and give Winnie the best possible matchup in the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I don't hate this, because Niles doesn't really have a great pick into this, and Niles is a Twisted Fate enjoyer himself, so you do steal away the pick potentially from him. And now St. Louis is basically saying we can still really play any sort of playmaking jungler. I mean, we talked about things that are still up and available. You can't remove it all from Winnie, and it actually forces Yuuji a bit more onto a carry. This is a style that we do associate more with this player, with the Viego. He is going to be really the number 2, more than likely here, for Maryville, but Grapes, I know not to talk about hovers, but Niles does have a deep pool, and the Yasuo TF matchup in the long lane can be so dangerous, but maybe not a pick for game 1.
Instead, it's going to be the Rumble, which is a pick that can have some dominant laning stats against a champion like the Twisted Fate. So Niles going to try to match fire with fire a little bit. We talked about him potentially picking a tank, but this Rumble gives them a little bit of extra damage and allows for Maryville to have a very well-rounded composition here in game number 1 of the finals.
And a very dangerous composition at that. Maryville has a pretty much god-tier pick composition. They have the Nautilus Ahri Viego combo. There's no escaping that. Once they start resetting with the double reset mid-jungle, it can be so hard to deal with. St. Louis forced to lock in in this true tank Maokai for Winnie. It does still fit that hard engaged playmaking bill, though. It's a lot of side lane pressure here for St. Louis. Maryville, they want to group up around the objectives, get to them first, and make plays. Remember, the story against UST, when they played the Senna Nautilus, they were a bit out of sorts. They need to be locked in together with this composition in game 1.
And I love the the Maokai here for Winnie as well, because it's another piece of point and click crowd control that you can use against Yuuji. That combined with the gold card, combined with the Unraveled Earth from DARKWINGS, you can one-shot that Viego before he gets his first reset, and that is a tool that Maryville desperately needs to get fights in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, Grapes, all eyes on that mid jungle. We set it up at the top of the show, but I feel like Winnie, he's got to get involved. DARKWINGS has to have pressure against Spirax on his best champion here in game 1 if SLU is going to find a win.
We're getting ready for game 1 to begin, but while we're loading in, let's have a look at some of these players' pre-game rituals.
Just listen to some music before a big match. Also doing the 1v1s really helps a lot, just like getting my head and like my hands, I guess, warmed up for the game.
Oh, like, you know, just some yogurt, black coffee, some apples, some bananas, you know, just something very, very light. I think this is something that people underrate a lot, is like when you're on an empty stomach or like you're kind of hungry, I actually think that you play much, much better, which has been my experience, you know, just like there's something primal about it, honestly.
Yeah. Before any games that I have, my pregame ritual is probably just grabbing a Starbucks drink, matcha, green tea frap, and that's about it.
Game rituals, there's something specific that I do over and over again, but I do like to blast some Kanye before I play. You know, always gives me some confidence and motivation.
We hope that some of those players practice some of those pre-game rituals before this game, because this is it. All of the CLOL season has come down to this moment, Hawk, and both teams are ready. They are locked in, and we are on to the Rift for game number 1 of the CLOL Grand Finals.
Oh, great. And I know we're hyped up. I know the crowd's hyped up, and you already know Maryville and SLU gonna be feeling the same, and I am expecting fireworks in the early game. We already talked about the mid-jungle, but also looking towards the top side with Srtty. We said he has to be a problem that Maryville either has to choose to deal with and potentially risk losing elsewhere, or he will just take over the game on his own. And Maryville, I want to watch how Yuuji paths starting. It looks like on the Wolves, bit of, I mean, honestly, an interesting path coming through. Gives him a lot of flexibility with his first clear.
So it looks like topside clears for both of these junglers to start things off. Already heavy trading in the bottom lane as well. We know that Airren and SkyTec early on in this Lucian Nami matchup have that lane presence and have that priority. And so it's going to be their job to push this wave up, continue to garner advantages where they can, and allow for Winnie to get activated on this map.
Yeah, the more you can deny from the Senna Nautilus, the happier you're going to be. Lucian wants to get to that mid-game point where he can just chunk you off of mid-waves. Look, Senna has some sustain in the kit, but not nearly on the same tier as the Nami. And when the damage that Lucian can output is coming through, it's almost a drop in the bucket. And again, we're expecting side lane push to be the name of the game for SLU. It's really the mid lane, a bit more contested, but it seems that DARKWINGS getting the better of Spirax early on.
Having that Q early for Talia is really big. You can clear these waves out quickly, and that is a big strength of this champion. That's something that DARKWINGS has done really well on this pick throughout the CLOL bracket. Getting his push, getting off of, getting into other lanes, and that is that's what Deos told him he had to do, and he's doing it pretty well right now.
A little bit of a pass through from Yuuji, just forcing DARKWINGS to take a step back. Again, we're expecting this lane to be the focus. We actually saw it was in the win that FlyQuest rather had over Maryville in the NACL finals. A big amount of success was taken from FlyQuest attacking that middle lane and all those different characters as a dive.
A little attempt at some action. Winnie actually gets dangerously low there. One more tower shot would have taken him down. Nice job by Niles from staying alive. Does not burn any summoner spells either.
Yeah, but I mean, again, Niles staying alive, that side lane pressure coming through. And to go back to the previous point, attacking mid lane can be a really good way to get Maryville to crack. So I already like to see Yuuji going for those covers, even though he doesn't get much. It just forces the respect out of DARKWINGS that he could be lurking.
So there's no action so far. However, we have seen that pushing power work well for the bottom lane of SLU. Airren and SkyTec going back to base here at around the 3.5-minute mark. They're going to try to pick up a couple of items. A Kirch's Shard for Airren to make sure that his burst is even stronger than before.
Yuuji should be able to get this bottom crab, though. There's a ping on the way. Winnie, pretty far behind in the first clear. I think he spent some time covering that potential mid-play, so it meant that Yuuji is able to farm much faster. It might even be a double crab clear, as Winnie has only finished 4 camps. Yuuji, a whole 7.
Yeah, it's all right, though. That's never what we expect from Winnie, right? He's
That's true.
Not the one to full clear to start off a game. He's going to make some plays and going to try to create action early on the Rift. And even though we didn't find anything so far, this mid lane could be a little bit interesting as well. DARKWINGS taking Spirax to below 200 HP. However, here comes Yuuji to join him. No empowered Q, and with Yuuji on the way, it forces DARKWINGS to flash out.
Wow, and DARKWINGS actually fearing the one-shot right there. I don't know if he needed to expend the Summoner spell, but better safe than sorry. Letting his Viego get going. One way to lose is a flick!
One more Q would have done it. Spirax was below 100. Don't know if we have an official HP counter there on Spirax, but it was damn close.
It was indeed. Spirax riding that line, and he is going to miss a few of these creeps under tower. Does have to teleport to catch some of that wave, but again, we asked the question, could DARKWINGS match up against Spirax so far in game 1? 5 minutes in, the answer has been yes.
No solo kill, but pressure all the same, right? DARKWINGS already having an immediate impact in this middle lane, and we'll see how that transitions into the later parts of this first matchup. Airren and SkyTec continuing to find pressure here, as we see Winnie pathing down towards the Drake with that bot lane pushed out.
Yeah, he's got the better base coming off of his mid laner as well, meaning he should be free to start this one up. Yuuji on the top side. Remember, Void Grubs don't spawn until 6 minutes anymore, so being able to take away this super early dragon uncontested does give SLU more options going forward. They have that push from the Twisted Fate in top as well with the range versus melee matchup. Maybe a world where you actually contest for both neutrals.
See if it ends up happening. It would probably require a little bit of rotations. The one thing that we did see here, Hawk, no lane swaps this time around. It's been something that we've seen a lot in the CLOL bracket so far, but it seems like both teams were comfortable playing standard. That is a good thing, I think specifically for SLU, because they struggled sometimes matching the lane assignments the right way.
Yeah, lane assignment's so important for SLU. It is good that they're able to stay in the standard lane. I will say, Maryville, I don't think they really love the lane swap either. They're more than happy to just try to take their hands checks. I mean, I think Jerry and Zyko particularly love to play out the lane no matter what they're on, even on the Senate not. But it is Yuuji, though, onto the Void Grubs. Does not look like a contest will ultimately come through from SLU, so it's just the delayed trade of both those neutral objectives. And really the only imbalance anywhere on the map is that flash that was forced off of DARKWINGS earlier by Maryville.
I feel like it's a little of a hotly contested subject, Hawk. What do you think? Grubs better than taking the first dragon, or is Dragon better?
I think dragons are much better in this game. It depends on the compositions. If you have long range and can hit towers, like honestly, I think SLU loves the Void Grubs, right? But when you're against this composition that Maryville has, they want to take fights on their own terms and one-shot someone. And if you're able to take those dragons and instead force them to fight on your terms, can be much better.
Making the mid lane here, Charm issued. DARKWINGS using a little bit of a cleanse to keep himself safe. Winnie here to join him as well in the mid lane 2v2. We also see Scary Jerry making his way towards the mid lane as well. We might be in for a skirmish.
Yeah, Spirax needs to be careful. No ulti, but he does still have the flash. SkyTec is lurking, but Yuuji is also waiting in the wings.
Here comes the Weaver's Wall already. Spirax forced to flash away. Yuuji looking to join him as well, and it will just be that flash burn. But the Summoner matchback is very good for SLU in that mid lane.
And DARKWINGS is going to be up much sooner. That Unsealed Spellbook cleanse, by the way. How about that for DARKWINGS? Getting him out of dodge. I like that tech. Meanwhile, though, Srtty was forced out in top. I didn't exactly see what happens, but he's actually falling a bit behind Niles here in this matchup. Rushed the Mercury Treads. Doesn't matter that you're against ADTF if you're just able to get out of those gold cards earlier with the tenacity.
It's one of those, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? You either take damage from the auto attacks or your gold card lasts a little bit less, so.
And you get auto attack 3 more times, and it's not even worth the Ninja Tabbies, right? So, yeah.
Pretty close so far in this game. I was expecting a little bit more action though, Hawk. We talked to both of these teams and they seemed like they wanted the juice, but I mean, it's a grand finals. You don't want to start things off the wrong way. And it seems like both of these teams playing a little bit more cautiously than we might expect them to, maybe in a scrim set or maybe earlier on in this CLOL bracket.
I think a big problem for SLU is that they've not actually been able to track Winnie as well as they'd like. He's generally been clearing in darkness, so Winnie has not had the confidence to go for a big play without knowing where the Viego is. And also with Yuuji spending so much time covering off Spirax in mid to make sure he can match DARKWINGS' push, there's not really been the opportunities to go for a big play that I think SLU would have wanted.
We're still waiting. Dredgeline comes out from Zyko, matched by the calling and the tidal wave.
Winnie.
St. Louis bottom lane. Winnie's on the way as well, but he's not going to be fast enough to watch the St. Louis bottom lane pick up first blood.
And we thought it was Maryville that would be looking to play dominant in the early game down here in bottom. Hold that thought though, Niles, he's getting ghosted on.
Equalizer out from Niles to make sure that he's far enough away from Srtty. He still had the flash, but I don't think he had enough damage. But wow, St. Louis's bottom lane striking first here in this game.
A straight up 2v2 kill. Again, Jerry and Zyko, I am not sold on the setup for them. I just don't think this is the best look for the Maryville bottom lane. They end up dropping for it, and I mean, you gotta give credit to SkyTec. What a bubble on a Zyko to start it up.
And now look at Airren. Full static shiv at 9 minutes. That's going to add to the lane power that they have in this 2v2, and that's going to prevent Scary Jerry and Zyko from getting onto the map as well.
And remember, 14-9. Status shift is still an item in this match, and it's still a pretty good item as well. So, yeah, going to feel really good having that additional AD wave clear. Scary Jerry, Zyko, they're going to have negative pressure in the bottom lane for this foreseeable future.
And that's going to be big for this next dragon that comes up in about a minute, right, Hawk? It's the Hextech dragon, allowing for SLU to get to that 2-0 lead. This is something that we saw against UST for Maryville in their struggles with the center lane when you have Cryo go a little bit desperate. And it
that's
looks
a Winnie special.
Is going for a bit of a dive down bottom. Zyko's tanky, but is he tanky enough against 4 members of the Billikens? Here they go. Winnie starting off the engage. The Unraveled Earth as well onto Zyko, looking to get one trade, but the tower aggro is juggled beautifully. It's 2-0 SLU.
Winnie and the rest of SLU going into the woods, and they go for the dive. That's the Winnie special right there. If there's not a bot dive, is he even really in the game, Grapes? A nice revisit and another kill going over. This time it's the Talia picking one up. Srtty though, he's the target in the cross map. DARKWINGS, great teleport to cover.
And I think that's enough. That play, no good here for Maryville. They're too scared to go for that dive in a 3v2 situation, so DARKWINGS burns that summoner spell, but it's very, very much worth it, and they're going to look for more. There's the flash gold card coming out from Srtty, and Niles is going to get attacked by DARKWINGS as well. There comes that shove, and it's another kill for SLU. It's matched here by Maryville, though, as they send 3 members up to defend their top laner, and they will find 2 in response. 2 for 1 Saints.
Yeah, Srtty was feeling himself a little bit, goes for the flash forward, but didn't have the team on rotation. Maryville able to move their boys up there sooner. It is SLU, however, onto the Grubs in the counter punch. So these teams just trading blows, opposite sides, kills relatively even. Objectives, though, going to favor the Billikens.
Maybe a little bit too over-aggressive. You thought, Hawk, maybe with DARKWINGS sending that teleport, forcing Maryville back, that they would just reset the lanes and try to start over a little bit, but they went for that kill on the Niles, and they found it. Just cost them a little bit actually after, and now it's Maryville right back to even against SLU in this game.
And I will say, for as good as DARKWINGS has been at influencing these side lanes, which is what we expected, look at the mid lane CS. Spirax, he's up about 15 plus, and he got that kill back on the top side. So this Ahri is going to start to become a problem here that SLU might have to deal with.
Second dragon is up. St. Louis still having that pressure in the bottom lane. Looks like Scary Jerry and Zyko not in a position to try to contest, so it will be that 2-0 lead in terms of the Drake departments for SLU that can both help them accelerate if they want to try and get an early soul. It can also let them try and scale a little bit up if Maryville wants to try to contest them at these next objectives.
Yeah, again, being able to pick fights in your own terms is going to be so critical, honestly, for both these teams. We talked about the pick potential of MU, but face checking into a Talia, a Twisted Fate, a Lucian, Nami in particular, that's a lot of damage and a lot of pain heading your way. As Destiny Gate popped though, play towards mid.
They're looking for Yuuji, and they're going to find it oh so easily. Airren picking up another kill, and Yuuji will go down 4-2 now in favor of St. Louis.
And I'm not really sure why Yuuji was all the way up there when SLU has infinite mid pressure. Again, that is what Lucian does. He just dominates these mid waves, and super easy collapse by SLU. Not even a problem. Second one to Airren, as you say, and SLU, they're in a great spot so far. I mean, look, I may have predicted Maryville, but I will say, I said that this team has leveled up. I expected this to be a closer series, and so far, so good.
And the biggest thing, St. Louis have this lead. Take a look at Srtty CS. It is even with Niles right now. We talked about him being that potential X factor. He's doing all right, but he's not in a position where he's 1v9ing this game just yet. It's the other players on SLU that are taking big steps, whether it's Airren and SkyTec in the bottom lane or DARKWINGS setting up these plays on the Talia.
And here's the thing about Srtty, right? Again, he always can just make himself a problem that you eventually have to deal with. And he is a little bit behind, but he's not remotely out of the game. I would say Srtty's still in a pretty decent spot, all things considered, in his 1v1 matchup, and he's only going to become more difficult to deal with as the game progresses. Maryville, they're going to have to make some hard choices. Do we attack Srtty? or do we attack the 4-man group? And then SLU, they're going to need to know how to navigate those situations properly to not give up anything.
And this is a situation, lane assignments right now, I would expect to remain pretty similar for SLU throughout the rest of this game. You have the Lucian Nami mid lane, making sure that they can chunk out anybody who steps a little bit too far, and you also have your solo laners in these side lanes. They have those semi-globals. They can get to a fight if an overload does happen, and it might happen here as Zyko looks for the engage. Tidal Wave comes out and only finds a Nautilus, and DARKWINGS is here as well. Depth charge onto Airren. He's a little bit far away from Maryville to re-engage. There's the flick out of DARKWINGS, and it's Airren picking up the kill on the Yuuji. Here's
DARKWINGS out!
DARKWINGS will survive. Airren looking to dash forward. Spirax flashes away just in time. Nature's Grasp not going to find anybody except for Scary Jerry. He's all too far away. He finds Spirax over the red buff pit, and St. Louis are dominating this early game.
And DARKWINGS is on fire. Those flicks won them the fight. I liked that collapse from Maryville, but they just didn't have the numbers to go forward. I think the teleport from Niles got canceled, and that was the difference maker. SLU, they take it to Maryville, and now they're taking it to the Rift Herald as they are up 2,000 gold.
Not what we expected. We saw a kill actually up in the top side as Niles maybe went a little bit too far, so another one going the way towards the Billikens. And with Winnie having this Rift Herald, he might be in danger, might be that sacrifice, but it looks like DARKWINGS is there to keep him alive.
And getting the extra kill on Niles as well. I wonder what happened with that, but I mean, yeah, SLU is rolling everywhere. We talked about the side lanes. They're ahead in every single position. DARKWINGS is really the only one about on par with Spirax, but it is really hard to solo carry as an Ahri in a game like this when there's so much just raw DPS coming out from the other side.
And now this is the problem. Maryville, they want to scale, right? They want to get as many stacks into the hands of Scary Jerry as possible. They want to make sure Yuuji has a couple of items to get these resets in the fights. But now St. Louis, they have that 2-0 Dragon lead. They can force these fights whenever they want. That next Mountain Dragon coming up in a minute 30. They're going to be on sole point unless Maryville do something about it.
And I don't even know where, I think Maryville has to try to play for these cross maps, right? Because it is really not going to be easy for them to play these 5-on-5s into this SLU comp because they really just have their pick of the litter. We talked about how Winnie was forced to R5 that Maokai True Tank. Maryville doesn't have that luxury. They went for the Yuuji Viego, and he's 0-2.
Engage. SkyTec might be caught. He does go down as Yuuji picks up his first kill. Going to still continue the engage on the other side. Srtty teleporting straight into Yuuji and leading him to his demise. Charm lands onto Winnie. Maryville looking to fight back. They get another one onto the Maokai, but it's traded once again. 2 for 2 overall around the bottom side river.
And that Raptor entrance just bed left. So far this game as another fight breaks out. This time it's a 2 for 2. Said Yuuji was 0-2. Now he's got a kill on the board. That is something that Maryville needed. And SLU, though, critically taking their resets first. Look at this. Already, most of their team heading back to base. We got the Dragon spawning in about 30 seconds. They're going to be first to it more than likely as MU wants to go for DARKWINGS.
Oh, but they're looking in the mid lane right now. DARKWINGS going to be in trouble. He pops the Srtty's shield, but it is not nearly enough. That's a big kill for Maryville with the Dragon spawning soon.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. DARKWINGS, no teleport to get back into this either. And I actually don't know if SLU can play for this Dragon anymore, and that's a huge break of tempo from Maryville. Feels like they kind of got away with one. Big overstay ends up paying off.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
So here comes the Dragon. It's about to spawn. Everybody a little bit late to this fight, so it actually might still be playable for St. Louis if they are able to buy enough time. Maryville looking to gather a little bit of extra push in the mid lane as they are here at the fight first. And it would be a big Dragon. It would delay the game a little bit here for the Saints if they're able to pick it up.
Oh, it definitely would. I think they've got it. DARKWINGS only just now having respawned, and I just don't think you can walk in. But wow, the Saints not confident enough to start this one up. As you say, hesitating a bit.
And now Jerry getting chunked out a little bit by Airren as well. It's a 2-level lead between the two marksmen.
They want mid-wave.
So SLU making their way towards the pit first, while Maryville looking to generate mid-prio. Watch Spirax on the other side as well. He's looking for a flank. Weaver's Wall already came out from DARKWINGS to block off Maryville as St. Louis head their way towards the Drake.
And I'm really surprised that Maryville didn't just pull the trigger, and now it's so hard to walk in towards that Lucian.
Point and click CC, baby. That's the name of the game, and that will result in Zyko going down. Airren dominating on the Lucian. It's just one kill, but that's all St. Louis needs to pick up their 3rd Drake of the game.
But it's all too easy for them. And Grapes, dare I say, a rare moment lacking confidence there for the Saints, as they did not want to pull the trigger, and at the end, they just end up walking into Fog of War without seemingly a really good plan. Zyko, he's so far behind in his game. 1-5. I've got to say, the Senna Nautilus, for seemingly the 3rd consecutive game that Maryville has played it, I'm not impressed.
We talked about it in the pre-show even, right? Like, bot lane prio was going to be such an important part of this series, and we really thought with the way that these teams have been playing, we were going to see that just really take over in this series with, you know, things like the Kalista, the Varus, the Lucian, picked up by Airren as well. A deviation in play styles here for MU. Maybe they were testing things out, seeing if they could handle it. Looks like the answer might be no. They might have to head back to their roots.
And, you know, I know Cubby was saying back on the studio that, you know, he thought Scary Jerry and Zyko would be much stronger than Airren and SkyTec. Most valuable player in the NACL, or rather most improved, sorry, for Scary Jerry. Zyko was one of the first team supports, or I believe second team overall. Meanwhile, Airren and SkyTec didn't even play in the NACL, and Airren was pretty solid, but I will say, Airren, since the last time we saw him in CLOL, has leveled up leaps and bounds, and I do think he has surprised some people with how effectively he's able to go toe-to-toe with some of the best, and we're seeing it here in this first game, completely getting the better of his opposite number.
And when you look about the last time that SLU was in the CLOL championships, right, it was in the semifinals against UST. Airren played the Jinx in that first game. He was not that dominant in the lane, but his goal was to team fight a little bit more. Now, he's totally about dominating this bottom lane. He has a 1,000 goal shutdown, the richest player here on the map, and in a position to carry SLU to their first win in Grand Finals history.
We're still a long way, though. It is still only game 1, but I do think SLU poised very well to win. This Rift Herald charge will just knock down this mid lane tier 1, and this is what SLU needs to start doing. They need, okay, Winnie, need to start opening up the map a little bit more. Getting that mid tower is going to be big. Now they need to try to work on that top lane tier 1. The more space that you can take away from Maryville, the harder it is for them to set up those picks.
Oh, they're going. Look at the double knockup coming out of the Rift Herald. That will start the engage. Zyko goes down again, and Airren is godlike in game number 1. Niles getting tangled up there by the Winnie ultimate, but it will not be enough to keep going unless he finds another flick. DARKWINGS is unstoppable here in this game. It's a double kill for Airren.
And why was Niles all the way up there to get flicked in the first place? I mean, just serving himself up. DARKWINGS makes it look all too easy. It's 2 more kills to Airren. It's a tower. And guess what, Grapes? We're 20 minutes into the game. SLU moving towards the Baron.
And they have a lot of damage to take it down. Airren really, really strong in this situation. However, Yuuji has Smite, has Flash, has Ultimate. A lot of ways to get into this pit and try to pull off a mirror steal. It's at 8,000 HP right now. Teleport coming in from Zyko. They want to contest.
Maybe not.
Spirax dashes straight into the unraveled earth. Lands the charm onto SkyTec, but he flashed away and allows the Srtty to pick up the first kill of this fight. Now Zyko the target. The Baron has been reset, and that's all Maryville wanted, but they might have to pay for it with their lives. In comes Winnie. A 2-man scramble smash, but Yuuji on the other side looks for one. Finds Srtty, but will go down just in response. Airren very low. Here comes Niles. Maryville coming back into this game. It is an ace for the Saints as they take control of this game.
And now Saints, the Maryville Saints are back in it. It's Niles on the teleport flank as Airren got fouled. And once the Lucian went down, it allows him to get back into this, Graves. 1,500 is what the gold league's been cut to. No Baron, though, critically to fall.
What a turnaround. You said it was gone. It definitely was not.
It definitely was not. They did it way slower than I thought.
I mean, the teleporting from Zyko, the engage that was started by Spirax and Yuuji. This new duo that made their way back to Maryville here for 2024. They started the fight, and they're the one to change the tide here in game number 1.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we can get a replay of that fight, because SLU, it was a good call from them. They bait Maryville into the play in the odd numbers, and they're able to take down the first kills, right? You can see Senna already having died, Zyko the next target, but SLU just sticks around too long. It's this flash dragging Winnie in. All of a sudden, they're completely overextended. Everyone at Maryville has respawned, and they're able to collapse the trap and pick up their ace.
I mean, Spirax stayed alive for so long here in that fight, and it was Niles coming in after he went down, which prompted St. Louis to start the engage. He came right back in there and righted his wrongs after getting caught out.
So Maryville now, first ones over towards the Dragon. They have no flashes up to their name. DARKWINGS the only one actually in the game with a flash available, which means any pick target is a good pick target. St. Louis, though, bearing down on the mid wave, forcing the response out of the 2-time champs. Airren leading the charge as, I mean, Maryville, they want to set a trap. They want SLU walking into them.
Look at Spirax. He's looking, but another nice flick out of DARKWINGS, and the calling coming out. Oh, he's shot Jerry before the fight even starts. Equalizer over the top, but it's just his own SLU away. Dragon spawning in less than a minute. It's still a numbers advantage for SLU, but DARKWINGS is on the wrong side of that pit. He's going to go down. Yuuji picks up the reset, and now Maryville have the opportunity to turn. A nice flick lands onto Airren. Yuuji still going in, but Airren will able to pick up the kill in response. Now it's Niles, overheated, and one-shotting everybody on the Balakin side. It is a 3-for-2. A hook land hands on to Winnie, and Maryville win one more.
Srtty forced to run away as it was a huge mistake from DARKWINGS in the 4v5. Getting caught out, Srtty still looking.
He gets one. That's all he will get. Another ace for the Saints. What a comeback here. What a first game of the CLOL Grand Final.
And I'm going to be honest with you, Graves. Look, Maryville fighting back so well, but I can't help but feel that the Billikens have pitched this one to them that little bit. It's going to be a soul denied as Maryville right back in this game. Niles 5-3-7 on the Rumble. The coach, captain, top laner, he's making it happen.
We talked about how we thought Maryville looked a little bit indecisive around that last Dragon fight, Hawk. Didn't happen this time. They pulled the trigger, they went straight forward, and they found the fight that they wanted.
I mean, did they even really find the fight that they wanted? It was a 4v5. Scary Jerry got one shot immediately, and then DARKWINGS cut himself off over the Raptor wall, and then just got one shot. I don't know what the plan was, whether or not they wanted to chase in, but I mean, it was just a huge mistake from DARKWINGS. Fortunately, hey, moral victory. Did get a ground.
You know, sometimes the moral victory is the best one, right? It gets the mental back in. Maybe that helps reset DARKWINGS a little bit. He had such a good start to this game as well. Finding Prio in the mid lane, almost solo killing Spirax.
Yeah.
He needs to get back in the running, find these good engages, and stay alive in these team fights.
And let's remember, it was his flick that set up that play in the first place, right? So, I mean, SLU, they still have plenty of options. They're actually still up gold despite everything. It really just is leaving the door open in places where they really shouldn't. And also, tending to group up quite a bit. Not allowing Airren to really spread out the members. You can see he's by quite a wide margin the richest member in this game.
And Maryville still down in gold, right? It's St. Louis up 1.5K. However, some of their champions have started to scale a little bit, and that is what we needed to see out of them. St. Louis, they still have an opportunity, and we have to turn our eyes again towards these mid-jungle duos right here, right? Can Winnie and DARKWINGS lock up Yuuji enough with their point-and-click CC, prevent those resets from happening, because that is really what has allowed Maryville to take over in some of these fights.
I just don't get why SLU is A-ramming so hard right now, Grapes. They have so much side lane threat. That's what we said in the draft. It was all about the side lanes, and instead they're just grouping together, not really willing to play on 3 lanes. Maybe they don't want to get caught out somewhere, and they're not confident enough in their Baron start to be a big enough threat, but it feels like the Billikens, after giving up a couple fights, they're waffling a little bit here as we approach the late game.
Now, what's the next move for them? Does SLU feel confident enough to try to start fights around this next dragon that's spawning in 3 minutes, or do they look for other options? Remember, they still have that 1-3-1 that was initiated with this TF pick in the draft. Srtty making his way down bottom lane. I would imagine for SLU, if they can find numbers advantages with their semi-globals, with Srtty on the split, that is how they regain their momentum here in this one.
Spirax has been sent down to the bottom lane to push that one out, answered by Srtty. Now SLU starting to spread out the map that little bit more. So we're seeing them move more towards that strategy. It feels like neither team really putting that much priority on the Baron. I don't think either of them do it particularly quickly. And honestly, it might just be this dragon in 2 minutes, 20 seconds that we see the big fight come. All resources up and available. I think SLU, if anyone, has the bigger potential to try to make some sort of fight happen earlier on, get a pick, get a cooldown, which I would like to see them do, but things definitely slowing down. And Scary Jerry, I will say, being allowed, to stack up on the Senna.
Is hit there by the sapling. He's working towards that second completed item. Remember, as the fasting Senna, you don't get your items as fast as somebody like Airren, but still in a position with those souls to really start to take control of these fights, specifically, I think around some of these neutral objectives, right, where he can generate a lot of space. We look for these engagements. They're going right down the mid lane. Zyko went a little bit too far forward, has to flash away early. Here comes Donnie Shadow over the top. Spirax dashing forward. He picks up the kill on a DARKWINGS, and Yuuji's off to the races. He lands a shove of his own and says, I can do it better than you. It's 3-0 Maryville. It's a double kill for Yuuji, and they're making their way towards the Baron.
And maybe for the first time, the Senna game plan coming on full display as Zyko basically just runs at SLU and pulls the trigger. Senna wanting to fight in a straight line, and I mean, SLU, their front line is simply not as tanky. Maryville going to be able to take the Baron, and after a rough early game, they are in full control of game number 1.
We talked about Maryville being the favorites here, Hawk. SLU tried to punch back a little bit here to start this one out, but that was such a big lead that they had, and Maryville once again solidly in control. It's a 2,000 gold lead. It's a Baron buff in their hands for the next 3.5 minutes, and they are going to push in every which lane they possibly can to take this first game.
Yeah, and I mean, SLU, at this point, you're looking at those side lane plays, right? It doesn't feel like you can win 5-on-5. Your front line is just not big enough. They didn't convert their mid-game advantage, and some of the win conditions falling by the wayside. It's a tough scene if you're a fan of SLU. I will say, Grapes, hey, last week or 2 weeks ago, they dropped their first game against St. Thomas. And it was about the opposite. They lost really hard in the early game, fought back well later on, but still ultimately fell short. But they learned a lot from that game. So knowing this team, obviously they're not even out of this game yet, but even if they do fall here, this is definitely a resilient team as we have seen on their lower bracket run.
So SLU still pushing, or sorry, still now on the defensive end of things, I should say. Srtty still in a side lane. He's on the opposite side of the map of where this dragon is. That means that they're going to give it up. Maryville making it a 3-2 dragon counter, putting some more resistances to their name, while St. Louis trying to find some vision on the top side of the map.
Maybe can even play for a top tier 2. I mean, Maryville's still having to work through this bottom lane tier 1 does mean that they're going to be slower on the push than they would like to be. When he's covering off Srtty, he's going to take down this tower really quickly. I mean, SLU really just needs to be careful to make sure they can get back and defend their tier 3. I mean, obviously this tier 1, not long for this world. I would imagine Maryville should be able to at least barrel down a tier 2.
Weaver's Wall comes out. DARKWINGS going to try to stop this push at least for a little bit. It buys enough time for Srtty to take the tier 2 turret in the top side of the map. Now Winnie and Srtty have to get back and make sure that their base stays alive because the rest of MU are pushing hard down bottom lane.
Yeah, but this tier 2 was an expected loss, right? You're trading a tier 1 and a tier 2 while the enemy team has Baron for a tier 2 of your own. So it's slightly down, but it's wasting the time of that Baron buff. We don't have the exact timer on it, but if I'm being honest, I think SLU has done a really good job with the penalty kill, if you will.
They held serve, I think, a little bit, right? You take a look at the gold lead, it's actually less than when Maryville originally took the Baron. That means that St. Louis have been able to match up in terms of income, and MU have not found that killing blow. Only problem is, as this game progresses, Hawk, Airren and SkyTec, they're on this Lucian Nami. That's going to fall off a little bit, while the rest of the champions on MU's side just going to continue to get stronger.
So Airren actually went towards the Hex Drinker as well. So he's now 4 items, just completed the Lord Dominic's Regards, but has that extra defensive utility. He is still the wealthiest member in the game. To your point, though, falls off that little bit. Srtty, 4 items himself. DARKWINGS not there yet. Everybody basically at Maryville has 3. So the gold a little bit more evenly distributed across the Saints. Billiken's a bit more loaded onto some of those big carries. Airren, Srtty, they got to be the ones to step up here in this late game. I mean, Srtty, we know he can do it. Airren, not really the player that we had put this burden on coming into the series, but here in game 1, it's on him.
And again, I just keep thinking about how St. Louis has not really been able to use that point-and-click crowd control that they have in their kits to take down Yuuji. You saw him get that first kill and then start to take over that fight, the last one we had in the middle lane. If SLU can cycle their spells the right way, they can take a member of Maryville out, one of the most important ones in this entire map, and that is where they can start to find control again.
How crazy is it? I feel like it's been like 10 minutes since we saw a real team fight. Like, there was that big Baron fight, and then Maryville, they had the other fight in mid where they got the Baron, and then everything is just kind of slowed down. Neither team really pulling the trigger at each other, and it's giving us a moment of calm before the storm. We can look and, you know, lock in, take a deep breath that little bit before these teams inevitably throw everything at each other.
And we can take a look at when that fight might be. Take a look at the objective timers right here now, Hawk. 2 minutes until Baron, about 2 minutes until that potential soul for St. Louis. They're going to be spawning at basically the same time, which means if one team goes to an objective first, the other team could either match or try to just trade Baron for soul or vice versa.
Yeah, I feel like this is the League of Legends equivalent of the training montage that we're watching right now, right? Where everybody's just trying to get as strong as they can before the big moment, right? Rocky, he's been running through the streets of Philadelphia, but unfortunately for our Apollo Creed, Airren here, he's not really getting much stronger, right, relative to everyone else. Rocky benefiting from that extra time that he's been given.
Yeah, and when you get to that later round, that's when those punches start to hurt a little bit more against Creed.
Yeah.
Airren in a little bit of trouble right now, unless he can start to pop up in these remaining team fights. The Baron now about a minute and a half away from spawning, and we're still just so cautious of starting a fight.
I think it's Drake. Like, it's still the same thing as earlier. Neither team really likes doing Baron that much. Both teams love when the enemy team starts the Baron for them, and then they can join the fight and you know, like fish in a barrel, right? Shoot them out of the pit. So I don't think any team really going to prioritize an objective. I think it is this Mountain Soul in a minute. SLU does still have access to that win condition despite how awry this mid to late game has gone. And they are the first ones into the river here. Look at all the red wards they're starting to put down in that bottom side quadrant of the map. Scuttle Crab now expiring as well, really allowing the Billikens to retake some control for themselves.
And SLU like being at an objective first, right?
Yes.
You have Winnie with the Nature's Grasp. You have DARKWINGS just being able to take so much poke damage and just a lot of artillery straight forward onto anybody that's trying to get into the pit. And
There they go.
They try to pull the trigger first now. Weaver's Ball straight under the teleport. It will be Spirax joining the fray as mid lane becomes the topic of conversation. It's Maryville who's getting priority first.
And so Maryville does have push and top, as well as a priority in the topside river, so they do have threat towards the Baron, but instead just using their 5-man stack to force SLU back. Now they're playing for the retake. SLU does have push and bottom, as well as the ward by Raptor Pit, though. So not completely safe by Maryville. As, I mean, it just takes one skill shot. Zyko, he is looking for it. Watch his positioning.
Winnie's looking aggressive as well. He has that flash with advances.
There they go.
Finds the depth charge onto SkyTec. Srtty expertly dodging away from the charm on the other side of the fight. Now it's the Nautilus in the middle of everybody. He's going to go down first as Srtty picks up the first kill. Can Maryville find anything now? The health bars are in their advantage, but they are down a man.
Maryville still has the positioning, but Srtty TPing behind. Here they go.
Here comes the flank. Who will the target be? Can they lock somebody down? Gold card onto Spirax. The Srtty flashes away. They got Jerry, and they find the kill. Airren with the double kill as they shut Yuuji down. Now it's Niles and Spirax, the soul winners for the Saints, to try to save the game. It is another one. It is 4. And soon will be 5. A double kill in for Darkwing. And it's an ace going back towards SLU.
After everything, SLU somehow still managing to wrest control of the game. It's going to be their Mountain Soul going over 35-second death timers. It might even be the double objectives as the Baron next on the menu for the Billikens as they take over in that fight.
It can't be the best CLOL bracket in history without a great finals, and we've got ourselves a great first game here, Hawks.
It's only game 1. It is only game 1. At least 2 more of these, if not more. SLU onto the Baron, and we can take another look at that fight. This is after Zyko has already fallen. Srtty, he just Destinies into the back line to buy time. It doesn't matter if he gets a gold card on anyone. He wants to cut off Maryville's exit. It allows SLU to walk in, and although Niles, I mean, he is so strong, burning everyone down right here. It's not enough. He can't do it on his own. Spirax missed basically everything in that fight, and it meant that it was a 5-for-1 in favor of SLU.
Now we saw Maryville, they weren't able to do much with that Baron power play. The question now is, what can SLU do with it? They're up to about 5,000 gold. They got to go split along these side lanes and make sure these objectives fall.
Yeah, and they already have push in both their sides, so what they need to do is retake control over mid. A big part of the reason why SLU was able to deny that Baron so well is they pre-pushed all their lanes. So Maryville had to spend a lot of time fixing everything. SLU doesn't have to do that. They've already got that wave in top. You can see assist pings moving towards it. They want to push out this mid wave, then move together probably as 4 or even 5 towards that top wave, force the response out of Maryville. Again, I would like to see them play on at least 2 lanes.
Oh, look at Spirax. Tried to find the charm on the SkyTec. Instead, it's Winnie going all the way over the wall. They thought it was kill, and Spirax as Srtty lands the crushing blow. Now it's Zyko flashing away. The Weaver's Wall blocking the Saints out of their own base. And now they're forced to run back to the fountain to try to heal back up. St. Louis punching and knocking on the enemy door.
And Maryville very lucky that Zyko didn't die. That might be the difference between them losing the game right here and not. But 4v5 in the base. It's at least 2 inhibitors going the way of SLU. The question is, do they push for the end? No bottom wave available for SLU. And here they come.
No ultis on anybody alive on Maryville either. It'll be one last hell of a defense. The first Nexus Tower is at half HP. Who will land the trigger? Who will pull it first? Srtty looking aggressively. The first Nexus Tower is gone. Niles already chunked out the half by DARKWINGS. And there's the double bubble coming out of SkyTec. Airren gets the kill. They're looking to close things out, and it's not what we expected at all, Hawks. St. Louis University upsetting Maryville in